bad as we're going to.
Three of the original four Beatles, John, George, Paul and Ringo, finally parted company with their fast-talking American manager, Allen Klein. A highly significant announcement for pop fans, because one of the reasons given for the original breakup of the Beatles was that after Brian Epstein's death, John, George and Ringo wanted Klein to manage the Beatles' complex business affairs and disagreed with Paul, who was against Klein and who wanted Lee Eastman, his wife's father, as manager. So, with Klein out of the way, and unanimity on that question at least, is the way now open for a reunion? 2 days ago, John Fielding talked to John Lennon and Yoko Ono in Los Angeles.
John, can you tell me what happened with Allen Klein? Why did you and the other two try to decide finally to get rid of him?
Well, there are many reasons to finally give him the push, although I don't want to go into the details of it. Let's say that possibly Paul's suspicions were right, and the time was right.
His contract was coming up for renewal anyway, was it?
The contract expired, I think, in February, and we were extending at first on a monthly basis, and then finally on a 2-week basis. And then finally we pushed the boat out.
When did you personally decide that Klein probably wasn't the man you thought he was?
Well, you're concluding that I thought he was something, you know. My position has always been the devil in the deep blue sea, and at the time I do whatever I feel is right. And although I haven't been particularly happy personally for quite a long time with the situation, I didn't want to make any quick moves. And I wanted to see if maybe, you know, something could work out.
Do you think the lawsuit had an effect on the four of you individually?
I think not. I think the lawsuit was a manifestation of the effect of, let's say, Klein and Eastman, you know. I mean, if any, they're always trying to pinpoint what happened, why the Beatles split up, right? Well, the Beatles were splitting up themselves, you know, disintegrating is the word for it. And I think the Klein-Eastman situation really pushed it over the hill.
You're not saying that you wouldn't have split back
No.
Klein and
It's like we were going to get a divorce anyway. It was in, you know, like the marriage wasn't going too well. Nothing, you know, you can put your finger on, but the marriage was over.
What about the chances of it all coming together again? Already there are reports that now Klein is out of the way, as it were, things are going to be fine, that the four Beatles will be together again.
Well, the presumption is, there's many presumptions that go down whenever anything happens concerning Beatles. The three of us were in LA, that was one scene. The presumption is, A, that the Beatles would get together again, or even thinking about it. B, that if they got together, John and Yoko split, Paul and Linda split, or now that we've left Klein, that Paul, the rumor now is that Paul's leaving Eastman. It just does it's irrelevant. It's non sequitur. It doesn't have anything to do with that decision. And
but the chances of your ever performing as a group again are in no way enhanced by the present situation, are they?
Well, with or without the present situation, the chances are practically nil. Although I hate to say definitely anything, because every time I make a definite statement, I change my mind. But I don't have any feeling about it, and I don't think any of the others really do. Because if any of you actually remember when we were together, everybody's talking about this is wonderful all the time, on all the press and everybody and the people all saying how great and wonderful. But it wasn't like that at all. And imagine if they did get together, what kind of scrutiny they'd be under. Nothing could fit the dream people had of them. So forget it, you know.
Yeah.
It's just ludicrous. You know?
There certainly seem to be a lot of managers in town all of a sudden as a result of the latest announcement about you and Allen Klein.
Well, a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork, you might call it, or they might be in the cupboard. And it's interesting, and, you know, we'll see what happens. But,
can't surely be a coincidence that bottles of champagne arrive in your room and this kind of thing all of a sudden?
Well, I always give everybody the benefit of the doubt, you know. But, yeah, it's interesting. People are calling up who one hasn't heard from in a long time, you know.
And what are they saying?
They're saying, can I help you?
Are they doing the same to the others, do you know?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm sure they are. I mean, I know for a fact.
Do either George or Ringo feel that they ought to hire another manager of any kind?
First of all, what we've done is discuss the immediate, what is to be done now as the situation is with
Klein,
no
well,
AFCO
you've
there.
taken that decision.
No, but still that, we have to deal with it almost for the next week or two, personally. And then we'll make a decision if and what we're going to do as a threesome or as a foursome. That's business-wise. There's nothing to do with Beatles getting together. That's not even in the running.
Yeah.
And if Paul can get over to America, that'd be convenient because I can't leave here. But there are phones, but it's not quite as good on the phone. And maybe we can sort out once and for all that apple cake, which is a big bloody cake.
If you do sort it out, of course, it means that the whole litigation that's dragged on for so long is completely unnecessary.
Well, you see, that's a very sort of, I'm not putting it down, journalist, Western-oriented thing. Nothing's unnecessary. I'm not playing the guru.
I'm taking a very simplistic view of it. It would seem that if you could...
What's unnecessary about it?
It was
necessary at the time, obviously, or it wouldn't have happened.
Okay. So, I take that point. But it would have been simpler, would it not, to have got it all sorted out between yourselves in the first place?
Well, we were 4 years younger, in rather a predicament, having not fired our first manager, having him die on us, which wasn't the same thing, and having been left with contracts signed at me being the next eldest, Ringo the oldest, but me being 23 when we signed all those things, and the other two being 21 and 22. And what we got into then is still hanging us up now. That's why the ball game has been so difficult, because everything we signed in those days was signed with, we didn't know what we were signing, right? So that's 10 years ago, and now we're still trying to unravel what happened 10 years ago. Now, Brian just died, and that left us really in the air. And not only did everybody come out of the woodwork, but we didn't know anything about the business side, not one iota about it. And then it was, like I said, it was the devil in the deep blue sea. And personally, to me, it was a choice between an Allen Klein who, although he'd had something to do with the Stones, Mick never said anything personally derogatory about him. He just told me the difficulties that might occur. But I took a gamble on that personally, and Lee Eastman, who I had nothing personal against, but I couldn't see how he could handle me objectively being related to Paul. So that was the situation we were in. But that's why I'm saying it's a different ball game now, and 4 years is a long time.
Do you regret
and I don't
signing
intend to get trapped into anything.
Right. Do you regret signing that contract with Klein now, looking back?
Which contract?
The basic master management contract.
That might be the one we least regret.
That's very enigmatic. What does it mean?
Well, Mr. Klein's contracts are amazing.
You mean
all I'll say
strings
about
and
them.
strings on them?
No. They're called the opposite, I don't want to go into the contract business because it's all, let the lawyers deal with the contracts.
It's getting to a Rolling Stone article now.
No, it isn't, because we're not answering. That's not the point. No, I can't tell you about contracts. I try not to regret anything. I'm not playing games with you,
Right.
And whatever happened, I'm happy now. And that's about all that is important to me. That I'm enjoying myself.
Right. Can I ask you if you've had any approach from John Eastman to manage you?
No. I haven't been approached by him, But you keep saying John Eastman. Lee Eastman is the one
Okay,
that does
so
it.
John is the front man for Lee.
Well, that's like saying, did
Peter Howard come forward?
Did Peter Howard come forward? And it's Allen Klein, actually. Lee Eastman is the one that does all that. And but they haven't approached, of course not. I mean, we have to settle something or other. I'm sure everybody's got ideas, but I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Would you have settled the litigation with Paul some time ago if you could?
I think we'd all have liked to have settled it as quick and as soon as possible. But I'm hoping, and it'd probably be true, that in a way, settling it between ourselves, because it seemed to be impossible at that period, would be the best way for us, just to sit down and say, now what is it, and what do you want, and for each of us to declare our real intentions.
Well, you mean you haven't done that already?
Well, because we had these people keeping us apart, almost,
That's what it boiled down to, is it?
Well, it's like when the lawyers come into the divorce, And that makes it a whole different ballgame, you know. Speak to my lawyer.
But you...
Although we have communicated over the phone in the last year, Paul and I, often.
Yeah, I mean, you've been communicating with each other for longer than that, surely, haven't you? In fact, right through all this. Or was there a time when you weren't
There was
talking
a
to each
period
other?
when it wasn't that we weren't talking to each other. There was so much going on, we didn't get a chance, you know. He was up in Campbelltown. Gardening.
Yeah.
And he was up there for a long time at one period. Nobody could get in touch with him at all.
So you're
Hello,
still going to
Mimi.
have...
Just say hello to my auntie.
All right.
Hello, Mimi, how are you? We're okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, and we're eating well. And I haven't given up my British citizenship. I just want to live here. That's all.